Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode from Beyond the Matrix. My name is Sarah, and today we're going to be talking about Jupiter for Thursday, which is Thor's day, or Zeus's day, Jupiter's day. So today, Jupiter is in the sign of Aries, which is this sign that is ruled by the planet Mars. So Jupiter is in Mars's domicile. So I went down a myth rabbit hole and then just decided to come back to reading from the archetypal universe because it's Imbolc or Candlemas. And I wanted to incorporate that mythology into the video somehow. So Zeus's affairs was how I was going to bring us from this discussion I've been having about Dionysus and Imbolc. Yeah, the thread there was swans and pregnancy, pregnant with potential in the case of the Trojan horse. So, whatever you want to do with that, feel free, but it was sounding really not very well put together. And so I can't have that. So, Renn Butler says of Jupiter, impulses toward growth and expansion, optimism and generosity, tolerance and acceptance of others, broadened experience, and integration into larger wholes. Okay, and then in the shadow, tendencies towards inflation and excess, pride and arrogance, self-righteousness, and sense of entitlement. The Jupiter archetype manifests through our impulses to grow, reach out, and expand our range of experience, to embrace wider perspectives, and to integrate ourselves into more inclusive wholes. Study, travel, and deep self-exploration are some of the satisfying ways to meet these needs and broaden our horizons. This archetype also underlies feelings of optimism, joy, and well-being, our sense of adequate resources, and our impulses to generously sharing with our fellow human beings. And Jupiter is not making too many aspects with other planets, so that's why I just wanted to talk about the energy of Jupiter. A lot of that feels martial because how do we expand in the world? We take action and we go out and we become the adventurer. So this fool of springtime, Aries, the one that's going to go out and be a pioneer. And so that's the flavor of Jupiter and this idea of expanding beyond borders. So Jupiter will be only aspecting the moon this week. I was kind of thinking about Zeus versus Hermes, and that's the energy of Mercury versus Jupiter. I don't know what anybody else gets from that, but Mercury, how I was talking about Hermes, is he can go in and out of stories. He's a supporting role. He's a character that comes in and makes things happen, changes things up. Whereas Zeus is the reason the story's happening. Ultimately, it's like all roads lead to Zeus. So, or Jupiter, because it's Rome. But the message that started to come through when I was reading was that the self-righteousness, especially with Aries, self-righteousness is sometimes the stem of this energy of jealousy or envy being in your solar system. So I think that's something to work with, is that self-righteousness that's based on a lack of humility. And considering right now we are on the brink of change, according to the astrology that comes up in March. It's that quiet before spring. The birds are just starting to chirp in the morning, but there's still a quiet, brisk coldness. Things are just waking up. I actually picked a card from the Wildwood Tarot today, which was my Imbolc reading. One of the cards that I pulled was the pole star. The pole star is placed at Imbolc on the 1st of February. It is associated with the new moon and universal lore and stands between the elements of earth and air. The pure white light of the pole star illuminates the dark void of the universe and casts its radiance upon the earth. The star represents the remotest power in the celestial sky and the interactions and fusion of particles that produce light and heat. Stars rise above the earth, beckoning our searching minds to reach beyond our solar system and grasp the vastness of space. The swirling clouds of stellar dust that form the hearts of the stars spiral outward into infinity and turn with the cycle of the universe. The blessing of the pole star radiates to the earth across the abyss and reminds us the same stuff of creation that fuels and binds these mighty sentinels of the sky burns within us. Latest research shows that stars are initially formed as a sphere within a ring or circle of matter, echoing the cup and ring symbols carved on the stones of prehistory that may represent the seed of manifestation and the source of creation itself. The blessing of the stellar world bathes the earth and the human spirit with healing and regenerative energy. The meaning behind this card says the pole star symbolizes universal law. That's Jupiter. Higher spiritual knowledge and power. The first breath of creation formed the stars and binds them together as constants within the visible universe. Our own star, the sun, reminds us of the awesome power that burns at the heart of these stellar giants, and yet that they are only the sentinels of our own visible reality. The pole star reminds us that there is a greater unseen power in the universe, one that can manifest and balance the enormous gravity, light, and energy that form the heart of a star, and yet also weaves the subtle interactions between the subatomic particles that exist in multidimensional states that we can only theorize about. Since the dawn of time, stars have been revered and studied as they traverse the sky. For the first travelers, the pole star offered a constant navigation aid as the star fields wheeled around its fixed position. Long-range calendar predictions and mathematical equations also developed from these first attempts at astronomy. Research suggests that the pyramids were laid out in the shape of the constellation of Orion, and ancient peoples saw mystical beasts, gods, and history laid out pictorially in the twinkling star patterns of the night sky. Like the sun and the moon, the stars moved through the heavens in a regular, predictable cycle, some vanishing beneath the horizon during the summer and reappearing during winter. Mythical stories of great hunters and slain warriors, honored by the gods and placed forever in the night sky, were handed down through time and developed into ancient religious practices. And then some reading points. The power of universal love is at work here, either within the individual or permeating a web of circumstance that will bring profound change and new spiritual hope. The pole star of prophetic guidance and inspirational knowledge has risen and will guide you on your forthcoming journey through the forest. If you hold this ancient and basic truth near the core of your being and navigate by it, you cannot go far wrong. It is there as a talisman, as well as a symbol of the universal cycle of nature. Whenever you are feeling lost in the dark labyrinth of life, remember that the same laws and primal matter that bind the pole star and fuel its giant heart also formed you. So that's a great way, really, to bring Imbolc and Jupiter together. And yeah, that's from the Wildwood Tarot by Mark Ryan and John Matthews. And the illustrations are by Will Worthington. So this was my first time doing a pull from this deck. I did the World Tree Spread, which is ideal for a question of more complex nature or a situation that requires a more broad and comprehensive overview. And I really did it for guidance on where to go with this video and how to not get too tied up in wrapping up Zeus's laundry list of extramarital affairs, if you can call it that, because he was married to his sister. So anyway, happy Imbolc. It just so happens that by next week, Jupiter will be opposing the moon, and I happen to land right on it. So moon in Libra, something here about an injustice, maybe from things misperceived or misunderstood. And it's a question of whether or not we're willing to compromise or go out on our own, whether it looks better to take on something completely different or focus on harmony and going about things as they are flowing. Because, of course, that flow could be disrupted and it's no longer harmonious as it was. It can be obstructed. So it's not to say fated or destined, but just the way that things are flowing with that, remaining in harmony and in balance with that. This could be at odds with our desire to expand and grow and be independent. So the question is, what can we take from the archetype of Zeus that helps to navigate this series of events? Let's take on the mindset of Zeus, but don't allow it to go into the indulgence. Even the king of the gods needs a checks and balances system. There's something to also the point about Zeus having control over the plot, the full plot. He's kind of the reason things happen because he's being Zeus and getting into trouble and being able to have that debate, being able to say, well, what would Zeus do? and then recognizing from the myths all the repercussions of that and why Zeus is doing everything that he's doing. It's because he also has received a prophecy that his children will kill him. One of his sons is going to kill him, just like he killed his father, and just like his father killed his father. So that's a recurring cycle. The change of the guards, the change of the status quo, being that disruptor, being the one that transforms it, or allowing fate or the flow to have the control over the destiny. So I'm starting to see why I had resistance to trying to fit Zeus into this long-running theme of Dionysus that I feel for the full moon, but maybe not necessarily for this week. This holiday of Imbolc is about, if I can read from another book, which is Ancient Ways by Pauline Campanelli and illustrated by Dan Campanelli. And in this book, they're talking about the holiday of Imbolc, but they also relate it to fairy tales. And so it says, thus one of the earliest descriptions of the goddess most of us ever heard began with this tale of a lonely queen sitting in a tower, working on an embroidery. As the queen stitched, she pricked her finger and a drop of her blood fell on the pure white linen. The queen gazed at the drop of blood and made a wish. Oh, for a child with a skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. The queen's wish was granted, but she lost her life giving birth to Snow White. Her place was taken by another queen, older and sometimes cruel, but still quite beautiful. The stepmother raised Snow White in her castle until she was warned by her magic mirror that Snow White was becoming a beautiful woman and as such was a threat to her reign. Interesting, huh? The stepmother ordered that Snow White be killed, but the plot failed, and Snow White escaped and found shelter and protection with 7 dwarves who spent their days digging and tunneling in the earth. When the queen discovered Snow White's whereabouts, she took upon herself the appearance of the crone and presented Snow White with a magic apple. When the maiden took a bite of the apple, it caught in her throat, and she fell into a death-like sleep. So beautiful was the maiden even in death that the dwarfs could not bring themselves to bury her. Instead, they placed her in a coffin of glass where they could admire her beauty. Then one day a handsome young prince happened to be riding in the forest when he came upon the maiden in the coffin. Her beauty stirred something in him, and he bent and kissed her. His kiss stirred something in her, which dislodged the bit of apple and brought the maiden back to life. And, as we all know, they lived happily ever after. Yeah, I think the overlaying pattern is being aware of this overindulgence or self-righteousness. Try to lean into humility and gratefulness practices, and this will steer us away from jealousy and envy and that even being a part of our life. And I think it's the time to clean out this corner of the mind, which of course it would be a very big corner because it's Jupiter's corner. But what does Zeus need to clean up, and then embody that? See how that feels. Try that on. How to constrain Zeus in a nice way. Maybe distract him with a game or something. That'd be good. Especially partnership games. Yeah. So I hope that's been helpful for this week for our contemplation over Jupiter. And I'll be back tomorrow to talk about Venus. See you then. Just in general, from Renn Butler again. Okay.